Hello, my name is Carl Cook. I'm President and Chief Technical Officer of BioComp Systems, and I'd like to describe to you a new feature in BioComp Profit 11 called Entry-Exit Thresholds. In this diagram, we show a signal that would be a series of numbers that are emitted by one or more models in BioComp Profit and our other trading tools. And the signal rises and falls depending on the nature of the model and the input indicators being used to generate the signal. Now, typically up to date, if this signal went positive number, then that would indicate a long position might be considered. If it goes to a negative number, then a short position might be considered. And if it's precisely zero, if the signal is zero, then that would be an out of market indication. That is basically entry-exit thresholds that all are zero. So in this case, we've introduced the ability to separately set long entry, long exit, short entry, and short exit thresholds to be different values. So as the signal rises up through a long entry threshold, then that would indicate a long position might be considered. And as it goes down through a long exit threshold, then exiting that long position would be considered and perhaps going out of market. As it falls down through a short entry threshold, then a short position might be considered if you can go short. And if it rises up through a short exit threshold, then you may wish to exit the short and go out of market or whatever is appropriate. So let's take a look at this in BioComp Profit. I've loaded up a system based on S&P 500 data from Pinnacle Data. It's a non-back adjusted contract series. And these models are not tradable. They're not intended to be tradable. This is not what I would call a good system. This is just for education purposes that we're going to use for these entry-exit thresholds. So if I click on a model, you will see new controls here that allow us to set the thresholds for long entry, long exit, short entry, and short exit. And by default, they remain to be zero, which is the traditional interpretation of the signals. So here we have the signal, which is the red line, and the white line right through the center, roughly, is the zero threshold line. So anytime the red line goes above the white, then that might suggest a long position be considered, and if it goes below the white, then a short position might be considered, and if it falls right on the white line, an out of market. So now we have the ability to change these to any values that we wish, such as in the diagram that I showed earlier. So let's say, for example, we want our long entry and long exit thresholds to be the same, like in our little diagram that we showed in PowerPoint. And then in this case, we want minus 0.1 for a short entry and a minus 0.1 for a short exit. And if we take a look at our trading statistics, we've got an equity straightness of 0.67, which is shown over here. And that number will change. And then we've got a total equity for the system of 522, or buy and holds of 1,035. I told you this wasn't be considered tradable. Now, if I click calculate and use these four values, then we can see that the equity changed. It actually got worse, but our straightness went up, which means that the equity curve is straighter as it goes up. We can reset it back to zero by clicking zero, and it will set these four to zero and recalculate automatically, and we'll see that our equity and our straightness went back to where they were before. Now, what do you set these values? Obviously, just punching in numbers and trying them out is not very efficient. So we created something called the surface plot. So if we click the surface, it will make long entry and exit the same, and short entry and exit the same numbers, and then step those values through 50 levels, spanning the signal, min and max, and come up with 2,500 points of equity performance, which is the end point of the equity curve over here, and give us a surface plot of short and long entry and exit thresholds versus equity performance. And we can see equity can go negative or positive. And it's a colorful plot where the hotter colors are higher equity and the cooler colors are lower equity. We can click on the chart and we can drag it around and rotate it. Click it and rotate. We also have the ability to use the toolbar to save the chart. We can turn on and off our pointer. We can snap this to the right. We can snap it to the left. We can reset it back to the way it was originally, and we can set it to spin, which is kind of cool. But it enables you, beyond being cool, enables you to visualize this 3D surface a lot better when it's rotating and get a sense of hills and valleys and shapes and what may be attractive versus not attractive. You can turn the spinning off by selecting stop spin. All right, so we can see that we've got a nice peak here, somewhere near the zero trading threshold that's typical, but we can see that peak really drops off in equity over here. Boy, it goes way down. If we want to see how the proximity of that, we can turn it vertical, and here's that peak. And it doesn't. This surface doesn't have to change much because it will change through time as the non-stationary the markets come along. This surface will be changing through time, and so if we were to trade here, we'd be at risk of not moving very far and going down into actually losing territory, strongly losing territory. So we don't want to trade here. And this is kind of a knife edge over here. That may not be too stable over here. But we also see that we have a plateau over here. We don't want to get too close to the cliff, so let's pick a spot right here. And I'm going to right click, choose point, and it'll copy those points over into these boxes over here. And then to be able to use them in profit outside this chart, I click the copy button. I go to profit, I go to paste, I click calculate. And now we can see we have 1,091. We're beating buy and hold. We have a 92% straight equity curve. To replot that, you click off and click on it again. And which would be considered an improvement. If we take a look at some of the other curves, this one, 93 straightness to start with, it's not too bad. What can we do with that? We click the surface, and we take a look at that one to see if it's a bit different or similar. It's calculating the 2,500 data points of equity by varying entry and exit thresholds. Now maximize the window, and we can see the shape is a bit different. Let's set it to spin. But we still have our plateau over here. Our peaks are very sharp in the center by 0, 0, and we've got this other hump over here. Now that's 1,298. Let me stop the rotation. There's 1,298 points up here. 1,297, 1,298, 1,299. But once again, we have our plateau over here. Perhaps we would like to have a more stable spot. Right click, choose point, copy, come back to profit. We've got a 93.31 and a close equity of 939. I'm going to paste and calculate. So we got a 92 straightness, but we have something that beats buy and hold. And that's all well and good. Now, when you save your system, it will save these thresholds along with it. What you might want to consider doing is from time to time, I don't know, weekly, monthly, quarterly, come in and take certain key models and do surface plots and take a look at how they're changing through time. Maybe you want to be able to keep track of how this is changing. So let's hit the reset. Oops, stop spin. Hit the reset, and Maybe you want to capture this so you can copy it to a clipboard and you can turn around and paste it into Microsoft Word or other Google Docs or whatever is appropriate. Then you can take a look at how this surface is changing through time, and you can do that also by changing the dates on the Data tab. You don't have to wait for time to elapse. If you're looking at it historically, you can change the dates, take a look at the surface, change the dates, take a look at the surface. And then as you're going forward from here, as you go into trading, walking forward, then every once in a while I would probably go back and take a look at these, plot out the surfaces, paste them into a Word document, take a look at how they're changing over time, make your decisions of whether or not you actually want to go in and say, okay, I want to change where I'm operating, maybe over to here, choose point, copy, and come back here, paste, and calculate, and save. So this gives you ability to visualize and to manage what your trading thresholds are to maintain higher performance of your trading systems in BioComp Profit. I hope that you find this to be a useful feature and would like to join us in getting a license to BioComp Profit or upgrading today, or perhaps even leasing the product. Once again, I appreciate your time and thank you very much.